All right. And we are live. This is a live Jive archive for the 100-Day Magical Challenge, Day 16, the Ace of Swords. This is in the realm of mentation and spirit, and the you can think of it as the utilization of the astral in order to to influence formation of things through the etheric. So it's the pathway up from Malkuth to Yasad. We're in Yasad now. And can I pause this recording? I don't know. Hold on, let me see. Okay. Resume recording, and if the microphone's still good, recording resumed. I do not see the sound transmission, so I'm not sure if it's working or not. Try recording resumed. Okay, sorry guys, I'm trying to try out some new things because my laptop is currently down. It's broken. The logic board won't communicate with the startup disk, the hard drive, so that's kind of a bummer. Hopefully, I can get it fixed within a week. If not, then I will probably have to buy a new one. That might take a week or so. Who knows? But I'm hopeful that it'll be fixed, so that would be good. And we're live. I will try to do a little bit of recording without the camera off, but I'm gonna have to check it because it doesn't. No, it doesn't show. It's not registering if it's actually recording or not. But I was hoping to do Knowledge Lecture 3 for the 100-Day Magical Challenge. So here we go. With no further ado, we will be looking at Israel Regardi's Tree of Life, Chapter 7, page 10, looks like 5, I believe. A magician's equipment of art, how this has been misunderstood. Magic is a mnemonic process, how everything, sense, and power is used to create a spiritual idea, signs and sigils, perfumes, true meaning of the magical circle, and so on, names of God, so on and so forth. Let's go ahead and flip to that, 105. So nice to have a physical copy of this book. Without a physical copy, I would be able to do no study with my laptop down. The purpose and function of magic should now be quite clear. It is a spiritual science. It is a technical system of training which has a divine objective rather than a mundane terrestrial one. If it be thought by some too casual observers that the theurgist busies himself exclusively with objective things, it is only because that it is through them and the noumena they symbolize that he is able to attain his ends. The equipment used by the magician is not the sole means which he utilizes, nor the only instrument to his ends. Though the invisible aspect of his workings could never have been grasped by the profane without elucidation, all things physical and mental were of necessity to enter into his work, and it was not for the purpose of deluding either himself or his votaries, deluding himself or his votaries, that the magician surrounded himself with what may be considered to be highly impressive stage apparatus of wands, cups, incenses, and perfumes, strange signs and symbols, bells and barbarous sounding invocations. It was in connection with the symbols and sigilia that Iamblichus wrote that they, theurgists, imitating the nature of the universe and the fabricative energy of the gods, exhibit certain images through symbols of mystic, occult, and invisible intellections. Just as nature expresses invisible reasons through invisible forms, hence the Egyptians, perceiving that all superior natures rejoin in the similitude to them of inferior beings, and thus wishing to feel the latter with good, through the greatest possible imitation of the former, very properly exhibit a mode of theologizing adapted to the mystic doctrine concealed in the symbols. This, however, fails fully to supply an adequate and satisfactory answer to the common question, why is it that the magician is equipped with such props as robe, bell, and circle, all of which to the average person are quite incomprehensible, somewhat repugnant, and smacking no little of charlatanism? This opinion is, of course, wholly incorrect. Actually, it is just as erroneous and unjustifiable as to accuse a physician of quackery, because in his laboratory he has several microscopes of differing strengths, fitted with wheels, tubes, slides, and that his desk is littered with papers, bearing incomprehensible physical and mathematical formulae. The latter are but means whereby the physicist comes to understand germs, bacilli, and microscopic organisms, and so forth, with the study of which he has occupied himself. The magical apparatus is likewise the means, just as incomprehensible to the layman, by which the magician is able to understand himself and commune with the invisible, but no less real parts of nature. We have already defined magic as the science having for its objective the training and strengthening of will and imagination. More than aught else, it is thought and will which really count in magic. Reader's aside. More than aught else, it is thought and will which really count in magic, and the magical hypothesis is that by the use of the instruments of the art and the sigilia with which the theurgist surrounds himself in his ceremonial work, that this enhancement of the creative faculties is obtained. Eliphas Levi is very definite on this point and observes that ceremonies, vestments, perfumes, characters, and figures being necessary, as we have said, to employ the imagination in the education of the will, the success of the magical operations depends on the faithful observance of every rite. It might also be added, upon the presence and faithful use of all the correct sigilia, hieratic, suggestive, and no less impressive. The important point about these instruments and robes, these signs and tokens, is that they are symbols representing either an inherent occult force in man or an essence or principle obtaining as an intelligent moving force in the universe. Their prime intention is to arouse an automatic current of harmonious thought or an irresistible impetus in the imagination which will exalt the magician's being in the direction arranged by the character of the ceremony and by the individual nature of the symbols. In short, magical ritual is a mnemonic process so arranged as to result in the deliberate exhilaration of the will and the exaltation of the imagination, the end being the purification of the personality and the attainment of a spiritual state of consciousness in which the ego enters into a union with either its own higher self or a god. Thus, the holy guardian angel and divine spiritual agents, which are said to help the magician. By each act, word, and thought, this one object of any particular ceremony is constantly being indicated. Even the sigilia are different for each ceremony so as to indicate its unique purpose, and one kind of symbol is applicable only to the invocation of one species of universal essence. There is not anything believed imblicus, which is the smallest degree is adapted to the gods, to which the gods are not immediately present, and with which they are not conjoined. For the assault on the holy city, every sense and every faculty is deliberately mobilized, and the whole individual soul of the operator must enter into the act. Each of the several fumigations, each minute detail of banishing, invocation, and circumambulation is actually to serve as a reminder of the single purpose which alone exists for the magician, a means both of concentration of his powers and exaltation. When symbol upon symbol has affected his consciousness, when emotion upon emotion have been roused to stimulate the imagination of the magician, then the supreme orgiastic moment arrives. Every nerve of the body, every force channel of mind and soul is strained in one overwhelming spasm of bliss, one ecstatic overflowing of the will, and the whole of the being in the predetermined direction. Every impression by means of the Kabbalistic method of association of ideas is made the starting point of a series of connected thoughts, eventuating in the supreme idea of the invocation. When, during a ceremony, the theurgist stands within an octagon, then the names around the circle, the 8 candles merrily burning without, the predominance of the color orange, the rising of the incense storax in a wisp-like column of cloud from the thurible, will all suggest the meaning of Mercury and Hermes to the mind. Mysticism ordinarily conceives the senses as barriers to the light of the soul, and the presence of the latter is debarred from manifestation by reason of the seductive influence and turbulence of the senses and mind. In magic, however, the senses are considered to be, when under control, the golden gateways through which the King of Glory may come in. In work of invocation, every sense and every faculty must be made to participate. Understanding must be formulated by signs and summarized by characters or pentacles. The will must be determined by words, and the words by acts. The magical idea must be translated into light for the eyes, harmony for the ears, perfumes for the sense of smell, savors for the mouth, and shapes for the touch. This quotation from the thought of Eliphas Levi will adequately convey in what manner the entire man must participate in the theurgic's rites. Since, as we have seen, the Egyptian ritualist uttered that there is no part of him which is not of the gods, to utilize the senses and powers of the mind in a well-ordered ritual is the ideal method for invoking gods. Each individual part of man, each sense and power must be brought within the scope of a rite in which it plays a part. It is our preoccupation, normally, with the separate, perpetual requirements of the body and mind and emotions which bind us to the presence of that inner principle, the sole reality of the interior life. Hence, one of the requirements of ritual is that it must either fully occupy or tranquilize those particular portions of one's being that are the transcendental union with the daemon, may not be interfered with. The elaborate system of God forms, vibration of divine names, gestures and signs, signatures of spirits, the prominence of geometric symbols, and penetrative perfumes. Besides these ostensible purpose to invoke the desired idea to manifestation, have these auxiliary motive. Reader's correction, I will reread that last sentence. The elaborate system of God forms, vibration of divine names, gestures and signs, signatures of spirits, the prominence of geometric symbols, and penetrative perfumes, besides their ostensible purpose to invoke the desired idea to manifestation, have this auxiliary motive. It is to fully occupy the attention of each of the lower principles, or to exhilarate them. That is one of the functions of ritual, leaving the soul free to be exalted and wing its way to the celestial fire, where eventually it is wholly consumed, to be reborn in bliss and spirituality. In one sense, the effect of the ritual and the ceremony is to keep the senses vehicles engaged with its own specific task, without distracting the higher concentration of the magician, and, moreover, it separates them by assigning a definite task to each. Thus, when the moment of exaltation arrives, when the mystical marriage is consummated, the ego is naked, stripped utterly of all its enclosing sheaths, left free to turn in whatsoever direction it will. At the same time, the most important function of the ceremony is fulfilled, there being aroused in the heart of the operator so intense an intoxication as to serve as the preliminary to the ecstasy of union with the god or angel. Thank you for tuning in, aspirant, for this, the third knowledge lecture in Pathways of the Magi, the 100-day magical challenge. It is day 16 here in Twilight Zone, Old Peking, Central Kingdom of the Celestial Dragon. I would encourage you to check me out on www.buymeacoffee.com/Frank Monday. Put a little something in the tip jar. That always helps out the channel. Hit the thumbs up, like and subscribe. Please leave a comment on the video. If it was your first time, don't let it be your last time. Join me on the pathways of the Magi as we move forward into the elemental grade of air and the rank of Zealator. Come with me, magician, forward into the abodes of this future. Ad astra per aspera. Until next time, do good magic, and thank you for listening.